You're watching Tristan, your virtual local game store host.
Says it looks like rain. What did he tell us? Doing so he floods my brain. Look at the umbrella. Married in a hurricane. What a joyous day, but anyway, we don't talk about Bruno. No, no, no. We don't talk about Bruno. Bruno live in fear. Bruno stuttering or stumbling. I could always hear him sort of muttering and mumbling.
Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. My name is Tristan, and today I just wanted to show you guys a set 8 Eugene deck profile that I think is my take on probably one of the most competitive Eugene decks you can make for set 8. Without further ado, let's go. Um, of course, our right line, we're running Bart. You can run any starter. We just choose to run Bart because that's part of the standard Eugene right line. Speaking of not part of the standard Eugene right line, we're running quite an odd grade 1. I've seen people run the grade 1 for the right line, which just gives you 1 soul. Not a fan of that. Fan of this card though. Big fan. So it's always going to be in your soul for its first skill to be active. Because we are going to be writing it from our right line. So it will always end up in your soul. And if your opponent's rear guard is retired, this turn, counterblast 1, call it to rear guard. It is an act skill, so you don't have to do it right as soon as you discard. You can do it whenever during your main phase, as long as you pay the cost and you've retired prior. So you can do some very wacky stuff during your main phase, like Persona Ride, draw into something that retire something, call over it with something else, and then call this out, and then yeah, it's some very wacky stuff for this guy. The other thing that it does is when your grade 3 Vanguard attacks, you can put it into your soul and give one of your Vanguard plus 5k. So that is very relevant, especially in this build, because this build focuses on a restanding mechanic with one of the newer cards, Oswald, which I will talk about later. This one just stacks up your Vanguard plus 5k, so you can get double value off of restands with the 5k. And with your Vanguard giving 10k to itself, it's going to be like 28 twice, which is super duper huge pressure just by itself. No persona rights, no nothing. So yeah, it's just such a good card. We're also not running a lot of boosters. Like, we're only running, let's see, really just 4 boosters in the whole deck. So it also supplements the fact that we're running a very low count of boosters. So yeah, it's just a free booster whenever we need a booster, and it's always there for us when we need it. So really good card. Big fan of it. Some people run the Vav Saga grade 1. Don't understand why. I don't think you should be running that. I think you should be running this card for sure, at least in Eugene. Next up, the grade 2 for the right line. This is the standard grade 2. When it's wrote upon by Eugene, you can draw a card and choose up to 1 card from your drop zone, put it into your soul. One quick note, you don't want to be discarding this twice on your way up to grade 2, because you will not have a card in your drop zone to put into your soul if you discarded 2 of these, because this one says when it's discarded, you put it into your soul. So just make sure, take note. If you have too much of these in your hand, maybe discard something else so that you get value off of the grade 2 skill. The other skill, actually kind of cool. Very rarely do you use it, but if you have counterblast to spare, say you got critted and you've got plenty of counterblasts to work with, what you would end up doing is you can counterblast 1 to soul charge 1, and it gets plus 5k as long as they have 2 or less rear guards that turn. You can even do stuff like, if they have 3 rear guards, attack one of their rear guards, and then attack their Vanguard after the rear guard dies, and then it'll be 15k. Very hard to guard with just one card because even if they guard with a 15k shield, uh, it'll still be one a pass. Or if they guard with a 5k shield, it's not enough. So it's just really cool, very cool interaction. Very rarely do you use it, but it does come up. Um, Also, it's a soul charge. It's not a soul blast. So, say your hand is full of cards that need to soul blast, like uh, Gibabraccio over here. Then, like, fear not, because you'll have soul. You use the skill. Next card is Eugene. You already know what he does. Rest two of your regards, retire one of theirs, and it gets plus 10k. So with the restand, you can give plus 10k to itself, restand, and then attack for 23 twice. Really, really solid card. The other skill is the ultimate just in case thing, and there's also a really cool combo you can do with one of the cards. One of the grade twos that'll come up later. Basically, what you can do is for each of their open rearguard circles, you can Soul Blast 5 and look at the same number of their open rearguard circles. And you can either call them to the field or put them into the soul. So it's just getting a field out of nowhere. Uh, Very solid. Uh, this grade 2 will come up later. I swear it's really solid. And basically, you can use this grade 2 skill and then call a whole board right on top of it. It's basically going to be very, very absurd numbers if you Persona ride that turn as well. Um, what this does is you rest 3 of your rear guards, and you give plus 10 to your front row continuously. So you can call stuff on top of your rested rear guards, and then with a Persona ride turn, that's plus 20 to your entire front row, and you get a board anyways. So combo is really well with the Blaze Maiden stuff. Speaking of Blaze Maiden stuff, we're running Blaze Maiden triggers. So 4 of the effect fronts. The effect front is just plus 5k shield if they're on grade 3. That's 20k by itself. Very, very cool card. The other one is Rush, which is just a vanilla front, but it does have Blaze Maiden in the name. We are running as many Blaze Maiden triggers as possible with different names. If there was a crit that was a Blaze Maiden as well, aside from the next one, which is Zone, if there was another crit, I would probably be running that instead. But the only other Blaze Maiden that we have is a front, so we're forced to run that. And then we're also running 2 different Blaze Maiden heals with Rioni and with Rona. So we're running as many different names as possible. They're all vanilla except for the 20k front. So they're all 15k shields, very good guard value. Some of the heals nowadays are only good against certain decks. 15k shields, you can never really go wrong. And then, of course, the over trigger for the nation. It just restands your Vanguard. Really good pressure. You have to run this. And then Twin Buckler Dragon. This one is just your PG. There's no Blaze Maiden PG last time I checked. Otherwise, you can use that as an option, but for now we just have Twin Buckler Dragon. And of course, we have the one of Elementaria Sanctitude. So 3 of those and one of these. It's just really good against like Maelstrom or any grade 4 deck. Like anything with guard restrict, the Jiva that you have to guard 2 cards for the grade 2. Forgot what its name is, but you can just use a Blitz order to guard anything that has guard restrict. Really cool card. Yeah, you should be running it if you're not running a grade 4 deck. And also, for the other grade ones that we're running 3 Togachi Rashi. This one, when you discard, it goes to Soul. Really, really simple effect. But there's 2 ways we can discard it. One for our right, and the other one for Oswald's effect. So Oswald's effect, if their board is empty, say it's only their Vanguard, they don't have any rear guards, you can, as long as they're on grade 3 and you're on Eugene, You can counterblast one, discard a card, and restand your Vanguard. Set its drive and critical to 1. Uh, really good card. Uh, we're running 4 of it. You might think we should run less because you only really need 1, but we really want to see that 1. I gotta sneeze. But yeah, uh, you really only really need to run 4 because you want to see the 1 every game. This is your main pressure card. This is the entire game plan of the deck. Um, and if you do run 1, or if you do get multiples in your hand, even if you only want 1, you can, worst case scenario, put it behind like 15k, 10k, or 20k attackers and still make columns with it. It's still a magic number. And since we're not running any other boosters, because Togachi Rashi just want to discard all the time, and since we're not running any boosters, this is the other boosters that can go in other columns if you already found one. It's this along with this can just make full boards, and that's why I really like running 4 of it. Just to find and guarantee we find 1 in the game. And then for our grade 2s, we're running Strong Fortress Dragon Gibra Braccio. Really weird name. But basically the effect is act. So you can call this early, rush with it. Rush with it with your grade 2 turn, 10k, 15, because of the Vanguard skill. Really cool. You don't have, it's not an on place, so you can use it early or place it down early, attack with it, and then still be able to use its skill later. Really good rush tool. The other one is it's an act, rest, and soul blast if your Vanguard is Eugene, and then choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. There's no grade restriction on it. You can retire anything. And continuous, or not continuous, auto rear guard at the beginning of your battle phase if your opponent has 1 or less rear guards, stand it and it gains +5, so it gains power by itself, makes numbers, can hit a Vanguard by itself even, because 15 is bigger than 13, and it 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 just does everything you want in one card, really. The other thing is you can also just rest it for your Vanguard's ability, and then it'll restand anyways. If say they only called like 1 card, then you could just rest 2 of these. They'll restand. They'll get +5, and everyone's happy. It just does everything you want in the deck. Rushes. You don't have to. It's not an on place compared to the other grade 2 of the deck, which is Howitzer of Duststorm Dustin. This one is an on place, so you want to save this for later on in the game. You also want to save this because this can't really retire anything super duper early, like grade 1s. It can only retire grade 2 or greater. And basically, it also just cycles any card you don't want in your hand at the moment into your soul, and then you can replace it with a better card in your deck during the main phase, which is very important for cards like Gradius Godali. If you didn't Persona Ride this turn and you drew into it with a Dustin, then you can still use it in the main phase, or you can like draw into a Blaze Maiden. Say you only have 2 different named Blaze Maidens and you need 1 more for Elba, which needs 3 different names, and then you can just draw into it. So it's really good for that reason. And then the other effect is when it attacks Soul Blast 1, and it gets +2 for each of your opponent's rear guards that are open, or for each of your opponent's open rear guard circles. That's a better description of it, I guess. So it can go up to a 20k attacker with an Oswald boosting it, it's 28. During Persona Ride turns, it's 38. With an Elba, it's like 48. It gets ridiculously big all the time. Like, honestly, such a good card. It's also reusable, so even though it's an on place, if it sticks around on the next turn, you could just do it again. Like, it's not a one-shot card. Uh, really like it. Probably one of the better grade 2 options for this deck. And of course, the whole reason why we're running this whole shebang over here with the Blaze Maiden triggers is Blaze Maiden Elba. We're running 3 copies of it. Act, Rearguard Circle, once per turn, Counterblast 1, and rest 3 different named Blaze Maiden. So that's why we're running as many different names as possible. And it's basically a supplementary Persona Ride. It doesn't count as a Persona Ride, so you can combo it with the new Gradius Gradali, or even just a regular Persona Ride. So it's gonna give 20k to the front row. And that's continuous. It's not like giving it to the units, it's giving the skill to the Vanguard. It's also really aggressive early game. Love it for that reason. Like you can make 25k attacks and 20k attacks very early on into the game if you choose to do so. The only downside is you're gonna have no hand because you had to call like 2 triggers to do that, which is sometimes okay, sometimes eh. But yeah, but sometimes you can afford to do that because of the next card in our deck, which is Best Harvest, one of the best cards ever printed. This card is insane, like insanely good. Like it's honestly stupid. So this literally says play it, you draw 3 or 4 cards every time you play it. If they have a full board, draw 3 or 4 cards. Because every time you retire something on your main phase, you just get to draw a card. You retire something with this, you retire something with this, you retire something with this, you retire something with everything. And you just draw cards, replace your hand, call a board, replace your hand. It's honestly really good. You want to see it, that's why we're running 4. And yeah, if you run a lot, or if you get a lot, worst case scenario, discard stuff for Oswald or your perfect guard, whatever. It's honestly amazing. Don't run less than 4 of it. You'll regret it. Next is the 3 Persona Rides Eugene. Of course, we're running max amounts of it. You can also call it down during your Persona Ride turn or the Elba turn. Have a 33k attacker on the go, or off of the top check from Eugene's second skill itself. I've done that before. All that with a trigger on a Persona Ride turn that's like 28k column. So you want to run max copies of it, of course, as well as the new card Gradius Gradali. This one's in Japanese, but I'll read it for you guys. You can only have 1 of it in your deck, and play this if you have a grade 3 Vanguard with Persona Ride, and you did not ride this turn and activate Persona Ride. So you just plus 10k and draw a card. Really solid card. The really cool interaction with this is you can draw into it with cards like Best Harvest or Dustin during your main phase and still be able to activate it. If you skip Persona Ride that turn and like find this off of the top, it's super clutch. Love the card, love the deck. Hope you guys enjoyed. That's it for me. I'll see you guys soon. And like the video if you liked it, and comment and whatever. Please support me. Love you guys.
この番組はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りしました。